Now, Chinese Global Times has dared India to fire the first shot. Childish approach by the Chinese state organs shocked many across the globe. So these, of course, are the latest details coming in on the broadcast. We are learning that Global Times has taken another pot shot at India, reportedly. For more details on this, let's go straight across to NewsX's managing editor, Rishabh Gulati. Rishabh, more propaganda being spewed by China's Global Times.
You expect in a single party state where you don't have duplicity of sources and everything is controlled, including all the wire agencies, all the televisions, newspapers, everything is controlled by the state, in this case the Communist Party of China. One is expected for them to take on propaganda. Now, just like we in India here have a strong position about our own national security interests, you can expect the Chinese to have a strong position about their national security interests or what they think is right. That is understandable, at least. We might disagree with it, but that's understandable. But if you look at what the Global Times is writing now, I mean, anything the Global Times basically is an official statement from the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, they can disown it or own it, but that's what it is. They have minders that write these out for them. Now, I don't know whether what game they are playing here, but when you are saying, nobody in India dares to fire the first shot at us, they know how powerful we are. We don't want to be firing the first shot. We didn't come and invade somebody else's territory. We didn't come with batons with nails glued and welded onto them to start killing people. That wasn't us. That cheap level of barbarism came from the PLA. So this kind of cheap baiting tactics do not reflect a responsible mouthpiece, do not reflect a responsible country, and it shows you clearly that this is an insecure, troubled regime that has now realized that it has bitten off more they can chew. They are facing consternation in Hong Kong. They are facing a siege in the South China Sea, in the Taiwan Straits, in the East China Sea, in the Sea of Japan, potentially even with the border in Vietnam, which is the last war they fought in '79 and lost. So these cheap baiting tactics are so disturbing, Uday. I mean, what kind of statement is this? You're saying nobody in India dares fire the first shot. I mean, what is this? Nobody wants to fire the first shot. If you hadn't done what you have done, if you weren't continuing to do what you do, nobody would need to fire a shot. Just because we are patient and we are a responsible country does not mean that we don't have the measure of our own resolve, which you can see, and does not mean that we will not defend ourselves or defend every inch of our soil. And that's a straightforward position. There's no cheap baiting in that. But Uday, what it's smacking off right now is that these guys in Beijing, they know that what's happened in Galwan has gone wrong, and now they're baiting India. They are baiting some kind of incident, and they want to be able to tell whatever little bit of support that they have left in the world. They want to be able to tell them that, oh, we didn't do anything, it's the Indians who started it. Okay? So now you can well expect that the Chinese are doing this baiting game, that they want that something will happen which will give them some kind of pretext for this entire heated situation that has come up. And the reality is, and for most people watching this broadcast would know the tried and tested Chinese strategy, the Chinese are now going to sit tight, and there's a fair enough chance, Uday, that they get their colonial subservient slaves in Pakistan to do fighting for them, whether it be through the terrorist track or whether it be through the Pakistan army. But what is troubling, Uday, is the reflection of, is this a responsible country? Is this a responsible power? I mean, the diplomacy from India has been measured to the point of criticism. We here in India are criticizing diplomacy, that why aren't you taking, a stronger public position? Why isn't the MEA taking a stronger public stand? But, intelligent people amongst us, and most of our viewers would appreciate that the real action happens behind the scenes, and in the statements you show the quality of your measure and of your resolve. and that's what India has religiously kept up even during an international incident, to the point of having people being killed. 20 people, Indians, died. Even then, we've shown measure. That doesn't mean we are not doing our own bit that is required to be done on the LAC. But as far as the Global Times is concerned, the Chinese Communist Party, I think whatever semblance of maturity they had is gone.
All right, Rishabh, so clear childish propaganda instigation by China. Just stay with us. We have also now Prasoon Sharma joining us on the broadcast, Indo-China analyst. Prasoon Sharma, welcome to NewsX. Your first reaction to this, these comments, of course, coming in from Global Times. What do you really make of it? What is China attempting? What is the Global Times attempting to do?
Uday, this is just a frustration from Chinese side because our quiet diplomacy is working effectively. As you see, yesterday also in UNC, China wanted to release a press release about the Karachi attack, but Germany and US supported us. So, and previously for this app ban, Global Times first said that it will not impact Chinese company, but after that, they rebooted their own statement by saying that it will, the tic-tac-toe parent company will lose around 6 billion. So it's like their frustration, they are on a back foot, and now in Hindi we say, Thoda jana baaje gana. That's the Global Times which is doing that. And I think India as a global power, their stature is, they are much more mature in dealing with public posturing and quiet diplomacy. Our actions are, speaking for us, whether it's on the economic side or in military side or on a strategic side.
Right, Prasoon, stay with us. Joyita Basu also with us at this point, editor of the Sunday Guardian. Joyita, China coming out with another provocation. Global Times is nothing but a propaganda outlet for the Chinese government. And, what is it trying to get at? Are you, do you believe that they're mainly trying to instigate India here? Does China seriously want war? Is that what the Global Times is asking for? Joyita, what do you make of it?
Yeah, actually, Global Times, they are a party, all these communist parties, they have their newspapers and all. Global Times is also that. The foreign arm of People's Daily that Chinese Communist Party has. So in the pecking order, they are pretty low down. But at the same time, since they talk to an international audience, some of them, we at least check their tweets. But basically, it is just a very crude propaganda outlet. And you see, I'm saying crude because the kind of threats it issues and all. No sensible newspaper would be talking like that. In fact, not just Global Times. Global Times is editor-in-chief. The kind of nonsense he tweets is unbelievable. What do you guys have in India except for nationalism? No senior journalist, no matured editor of any newspaper. In fact, not even a junior reporter will tweet like that on a public platform, whatever you might be saying privately. You don't tweet like that in a public platform, on a public platform. But that is the thing, when Chinese propaganda is, we're talking about Chinese propaganda, it has got some sort of a old communist style propaganda that we are witnessing, which is crude and not up to the, civilized and frankly, who are modern people do not carry out that kind of a propaganda.
Absolutely. Yeah, Joyita, stay with us. Major General G.T. Dwivedi also joining us on the broadcast, security analyst. Major General Dwivedi, your first reading of these comments by Global Times, childish is what it's being pegged as. The entire world quite shocked at what they're spewing.
Well, Uday, you know that China is the authoritarian regime and media is state-controlled. So what comes out of media is the Chinese government policy line or the Communist Party policy line. And, Chinese are now adept at the gray zone conflict In the gray zone conflict, there are three very important elements. First and foremost, to avoid using physical force but keep building pressure through various agencies, like they're doing in South China through fishermen and they're doing on our border through the graziers. Second is the information warfare. Now, information warfare, the main tool is the media. And as you know, the media is state-controlled, and Global Times is a Chinese mouthpiece. And my own experience when I was in China is that they propagate a particular party line, they indulge in psychological warfare, and that is for more for consumption of their own people, because the world at large does not take the Chinese media very seriously, because they know that is only mouthpiecing the government policies. Now, this provocation is basically, they also test our reactions, they try to impinge upon our resilience, but as a democratic matured nation, we have to take calibrated steps which the government is taking both in the military and non-military means like diplomatic, economic. Now, this is going to be long drawn. It's not going to end anytime soon. I think we should ignore the Global Times, but at the same time, we should also have our own information warfare, own propaganda machinery to neutralize Chinese efforts and also to sensitize the globe on the ground situation.
Professor Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, also with us at this point on the broadcast. Professor Nalapat, I don't think the Global Times can be called a media outlet anymore. It's become a complete propaganda tool of the Chinese. But do you believe they've fallen to a complete new low with these tweets, with these new statements?
Well, I'd like to say that there is no secret that Global Times represents the voice of the Communist Party of China. They made no secret of that. Frankly, I'm very happy about the Global Times criticism, because whenever Global Times comes after India, it means India is doing something right. And when Global Times speaks up and supports some policy of India, I would get a bit nervous. I'd wonder why they're praising a policy. So frankly, this just means that the Chinese state is hurting. And certainly Prime Minister Modi's masterstroke of removing 59 acts, Chinese acts, from the list of approved acts, and I'm sure it will be followed by many more such moves all across the economic sphere. Well, this is really is costing China.
Clearly. So, Professor Nalapat, what you're actually saying is that obviously India is doing something right. This is a sign of nervousness by China. This is a sign of nervousness of the CCP, which is reflective in these tweets by Global Times.
Look, the fact of the matter is, the Communist Party of China derives its legitimacy from the fact that over the last 30 years, incomes and lifestyles have steadily improved in China. Over the last, I would say, 5 or 6 years, that has not been the case. Incomes are going down, lifestyles are doing worse, and this is creating problems in Chinese society and ultimately in the Chinese polity. So the reality is that India is almost a captive market for the Chinese telecom industry. And the Chinese are looking at huge amounts of metadata from the 1.3 billion Indian people. At the same time as they are empowering Pakistan and creating provocations on our own border. Now, this cannot go together. Either you're a friend or you're not. And if you're a friend, you don't arm Pakistan to the teeth and encourage it to go against India, and you don't yourself create provocations on the border. The fact is, Prime Minister Modi has done absolutely the right thing in going in and using the economic sphere to send a strong message to China. This is the right step. It ought to have been taken 15 years ago. Regrettably, it has never been taken. Mr. Vajpayee didn't take it. Manmohan Singh didn't take it. And now I'm happy that Prime Minister Modi is doing so.
Okay, Professor Nalapat, stay with us. Major General Dwivedi, coming back to you at this point. Major General Dwivedi, do you also believe that this is a sign of nervousness by China? It knows that even it cannot afford a war at this point, looking at the global mood, looking at the current COVID situation, and that's why it's merely resorting to rhetoric.
Absolutely. I think China is in a dire strait because, as Professor Nalapat also brought out, that since last couple of years, the Chinese economy is not doing as well as it was doing for last about 3 decades. And Chinese Communist Party is actually ruling the country basically on one premise, that we will give the people good standard of living, good economy, and people don't question the Communist Party's political system. Now, that is not actually working out. There are a lot of dissent voices within China on what the Communist Party is doing, and also Xi Jinping, who has declared himself his lifelong president. I think the best way to respond to Chinese is by actions. Like, we have already taken action on the economic front. We are debarring the companies from many of the contracts. We are also shelving number of contracts as well. At the same time, we are all taking right precautions and right steps on the LAC, on the military front. And more importantly, we now to join the global chorus against China, because Chinese have to be brought on the knees. And the best way to hurt Chinese is economically. The day Chinese crumble economically, the Communist Party will actually collapse. And there will be new China coming up, which will be better for the world at large. So I feel that we should have patience, resilience to take on Chinese on all fronts. And this is the time the globe must join to bring China on the knees.
Okay, Joyita Basu, let me draw you in here as well. Joyita, you were also critiquing, the journalism of Global Times, saying that it's obviously lost every standard of journalism. As Professor Nalapat also just said, it's a propaganda tool. It's mainly merely speaking what the CCP masters tell them. But do you believe that, that this is a sign of nervousness as well by Global Times? This is a sign of nervousness which is reflective of what CCP is feeling currently. And do you also believe that perhaps it's time for our own information warfare now to counter what Global Times is saying?
You see, I'll take the second part first. You see, we have to counter them. We are countering them, but at the same time, we cannot stoop down to their level of, threatening, and crude propaganda is something we cannot do. In fact, that shows our immaturity. That shows that we have not developed. What China does, or the Chinese party mouthpieces do, is that, they indulge in some sort of basically this is like the lowest common denominator. And these people who are the ones who are speaking out, the propaganda is very crude and it is not subtle enough. Nobody, even if Americans are doing the propaganda, and of course everybody does propaganda, no one does it like this, oh, we will finish you, we will do this to you, we will do that to you. This is third-rate propaganda. You have to do propaganda, do it subtly, and that is the way India, if we are going to do propaganda, if we have to win the information war or warfare, we have to flood WhatsApp, we have to flood social media, but yes, put across the message, not in a crude way. And as for Chinese parties, the Chinese nervousness you're talking about, you see, at least we have, in spite of all this crudity and all this, that is coming out, this bluster that is coming out, Chinese outlets, one thing that they talked about is, you see, they admitted that ByteDance, which is the mother company of TikTok, they are losing $6 billion US. And in fact, as it is being said on social media as well, and even otherwise, the ByteDance was going for an IPO in sometime in February. So the total valuation, the total loss could be much, much more. So of course, you see, when it comes to the Chinese, they, understand money. They understand money the best, okay? And nothing matters beyond money for them. So obviously, once it starts hurting China, once it hurts hurting the Chinese economy, yes, only then China will start understanding that the rest of the world and India, we mean business.
Okay, Prasoon Sharma, bringing you in here as well. Indian nationalists are, Indian leaders know China is powerful. Indian nationalists are arrogant. What do you make of that statement as well? Do you believe this is a clear, clear message to the Indian leadership? The CCP is trying to hit out directly at the Indian government through this statement.
Uday,
Uday, this shows their pain that whatever Indian government have taken steps specifically for these ban of 59 apps. The impact is very large because they are not losing only subscriber, which India have around 450 million active mobile subscriber, but they are also losing access to the Indian data, which is worth around 2 trillion. For example, like Google India, their 2019 revenue was around 41 billion. Even their maximum of their services are free, so you can make how much value Indian data have. And the another thing is this sabotages China's cyber warfare and cyber trooping, because 50% of Chinese cyber warfare depends on their software and hardware. And cyber trooping is like China has around 2 million cyber troops as per our research we done in Oxford and University College London. So this sabotages their biggest information warfare infrastructure. So that's why they are frustrated and they are feeling the pain about this particular action taken by Indian government.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.